aren't the way they should be. Hey, Kathy.
Good morning, Jason and Eric. Welcome. We're having
Hello
another
from
transportation
Seaside.
talk.
Hello from Seaside.
Yes. Hello to you too. I hope you all are having a very good day out there right now. Kathy, it looks like from my area, the weather looks okay. You both are kind of in that South County area. So I hope the weather is doing all right. We need that as we kick off the weekend, and maybe we can get some good weather.
Beautiful, beautiful weather here down in the South County section of Clatsop. The sky in this picture over there is really what it looks like right now. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day heading into a beautiful weekend, which makes me think adventure and travel and get out there and do something. And
absolutely,
gosh, it just makes my feet itch.
Yeah, Kathy, do you want to take
in a good way
out of area? Let's let's go somewhere, right? I mean, that's kind of I'm starting to get that itch a little bit, and get out of this desk, behind this desk, and get out and travel and travel and travel. So
absolutely,
we have Eric, and Eric, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You are one of our customer service representatives, and you are basically South County and you are working down there, and just kind of give us a real brief few seconds of what you do, man.
I basically am the voice of SETD, as Jeff, our executive director, has said to our employees. Basically, I take all of the incoming calls that come into our transit center phone line. So I may be the first person that someone talks to, their first interaction over the phone with the district. So
that's great, Eric.
Right.
Well, Kathy and I want to talk to you about some
guy
good
if
stuff.
You're in South County.
That's right.
Go-to guy if you're in South County and you want some travel information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Kathy, I was kind of thinking we can. Eric won't be with us for the whole show today. He's going to kick us off, and then he's got to get going to go do the job that he just described. And
exactly.
Listen, we all ride the bus from time to time, and we get out there and we know how to get from A to B within Clatsop County and so forth. But what about people who want to get out of area, right? What about the people who want to go beyond even Oregon? Let's maybe say to a different state, maybe. Well,
I don't know. Do we have somebody that can answer those questions?
I think we do. And Eric is right there. And I think that we'll ask him this first question, Kathy, because we know that advice, part of the show is about providing advice and help to people out there in the Facebook and YouTube world, right? And so, Eric, what is the best piece of advice that you think that help people when they come to talk to you about travel outside of our service area?
I tell them to plan early. Most of the people I talk to, either over the phone or in person, I am located in an office where people can come in to talk to me as well as over the phone.
Nice.
But generally, I tell them to plan early, both their trips and where they're going, and altogether planning, as well as being at the bus stops early if they're taking public transportation. That's one of the biggest things. The second thing is to be prepared for the unexpected, both when you're traveling and when you're taking the bus. And don't be afraid to get to know someone on the bus or whatever form of transportation you're using. They can be a wealth of information, especially if they're coming home from a destination and they happen to be your seatmate on an airplane or a bus or a train. They can be useful as well.
Good.
Perfect information. That's fantastic, and really such a valuable thing is to, remind people to plan ahead so that they aren't working with, the fear of the unknown, and ask. And, the people around you are, your best source of information often. So Eric, I'm just curious, since we're here right out here in little old Seaside, what's the furthest away destination that you've helped somebody plan for?
So far I did a paratransit. I helped somebody that uses our paratransit service, which is our door-to-door service in Clatsop County, plan a trip to see family from Seaside to Talent, Oregon, which happens to be in the, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank, the eastern Oregon part of the state,
Mhm.
down toward Corvallis, Ashland, Medford area. So,
Mhm.
and
Well,
I did a trip plan for them, which is one of the services here at the Seaside office that we provide. Use it, and the best trip plan that came out of it was taking the Northwest Point bus service, which leaves out of Seaside twice a day, 7 days a week, going to the Portland Union Station and taking Amtrak to Western Oregon University. They have a stop there, being a university town. The actual train can pick people up there and bring them to Portland or the surrounding area, being a college town. So that was her connection point. And then the Rogue Valley Transit paratransit service picked her up there and drove her to her destination in Talent. So it worked out
Perfect.
really well for her. So
that
That's
sounds like
awesome.
a
So
great
trip planning that you do isn't just for people that have cars to get to bus stops.
correct.
That's perfect.
And a lot of people might not realize, if I can just say one more quick thing, trip planning is not easy. I have to use a lot of resources in the process that I have to go through. And sometimes it can take up to several days to get back to a person. So you really have to find out what they need, get their contact information back, and then your process starts. So I don't want people to think that they can come in to see me for 5 minutes and I can just blurt out this trip plan. It takes some organization and some planning. So.
Well, no kidding. It definitely does. And all those details, those fine details, like locations, times, routes, those are all things that you really have to look forward to, Eric, and be able to discuss it with someone. I mean, and then not to mention even mobility needs. Are they using a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair, right? Those are things that definitely having that ability to be able to speak to somebody and in your position, you can definitely walk them through some of those major challenges. But I want to know, Eric, your own experience, if you've got one that you'd like to share about what it was like. So maybe kind of fill in the details of what this person you helped might be what they were going through. But what was it like for you? How far have you ridden out of the area, and what was it like? Were you scared?
I was actually. I can highlight an experience I had in 2008 working here at SETD. I was on a business trip going to a conference out in Philadelphia, and the staff here that made my travel arrangements neglected to tell me what type of plane that I would be traveling on at my connection point. And this happened to be a commuter aircraft that didn't use a jetway in terms of boarding. So I didn't know to request a special piece of equipment that has a lift in order to get up to the plane and actually board the aircraft successfully. And I actually almost lost my life during the boarding process, and a flight attendant ended up assisting me and saving my life, because I was in a pouring down rainstorm where we went out to the runway and boarded using regular stairs that were metal, and it was in a pouring down rainstorm, and it was pretty hairy. So I learned from that experience to always ask what you're traveling on. And that's what I would tell the public is, don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if you're traveling alone, and making sure that the process is smooth. So,
What a great example of the need to plan ahead and getting all of your information. And, for each person, that information is going to be different that you need to get. And so it's really important and important, again, for why it's important to give Eric time if he's doing a trip planner for you, so that he's able to gather any pertinent information. So that, fantastic. What a great answer, Eric. And thank you for sharing that personal experience. I'm sure that was horrifying in so many ways. And so just as a way to be able to get you back to work and get you back to what you need to do, what's your advice as to what resources should people use before they come to you so that you can help them best?
Well, I always tell them to use, if they're coming to the seaside area or North Coast area, I tell them to use their local transit agency as an option, or to maybe use a travel agent in some cases, or to use the local Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center where they're traveling to. Both of those ideas have a wealth of information attached to them that the public can use.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Eric. Such great information.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. We are going to continue to talk about this topic. And Eric, you have a great day, my man. Okay.
I will. And you guys do a great show and are a valuable tool for the public. And I'm happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. You can refer people to watching our show too for information.
Absolutely.
So,
yep.
We'll send them your way. You send them our way.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, you guys.
Okay,
Thanks,
see you, Eric.
have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wow, that was definitely kind of eye-opening, Kathy, for me. I don't know if it was for you, but it's really nice to be able to have a discussion.
Yeah,
with the people who are actually doing these trip plans, who've really helped these people and so forth. And so I really give a lot of praise to Eric and to our other customer service representatives and what they do to get people to where they need to go.
Absolutely. I mean, it really isn't an easy job because there is no one answer that works for everybody. And everybody has their own little situations and their own qualifications. And like he said, the person that made the plans for him probably thought they had it all covered and had made a good trip plan for him, but they didn't know to check for those variables and those little details. And only the person that is actually going to be taking that trip, and maybe even sometimes they don't realize that. And so, you dig a little deeper. And so there's so many variables. And so let's talk about some of the stuff that it takes to plan a trip and go through those steps. And, some people would call this journey mapping, and we're virtually journey mapping this type of a trip. And so what does it take to plan a trip out of your area without a car?
And that's a great question. And a lot of people don't realize that the first thing to overcome, and we've talked about this before many times, but there's a fear and there's a little bit of apprehension when you look at what could be. And I just got done researching for the show what it would take to get us across country from Portland all the way up to New York. And there are a lot of steps, right? Yeah. And I could see where that fear, that anxiety, if it's something, even if you're just going for the fun of it and you have no time limits, right? And what if you miss your bus? Are you going to be stranded? What's going to happen if you pick the wrong route and find yourself going through the Midwestern part of the country rather than going through the South, if you're trying to get across or through the North? What are ways to get over that fear and that anxiety?
Well, I mean, what if you get someplace and there's no other bus? I mean,
yes,
I think that's a thought that crosses people's mind. If I get on this bus here and it drops me off there, is there going to be another bus? Is there going to be a train?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. And,
So.
you know, and you mention all the time, Kathy, you know, and because you've traveled a lot. And I know that's just putting a very general statement out there, but you've traveled a lot and you've
Mhm.
gone to a lot of different places. And I know you couldn't have done all of that unless you hadn't planned ahead, right? If you hadn't had some advanced research into what you're doing. Now, look, I'm not Crocodile Dundee. I'm not going to just go for a walkabout and, you know, aimlessly just walk around in the desert or whatever. But, you know, in order for me to get to where I need to go, I need a plan. I need to
Mhm.
have and answer some questions, right? You know, like for
Sure.
example, you know, how important is it for me to understand whether or not there are reservations? Well, I got my long trip ahead of me here, and are there
Mhm.
going to be pieces of that trip? A lot of people don't get this, is that when you plan long distance trips, shoot, if you're even planning a trip just from Astoria up to Portland and around in Portland somewhere, you're not just traveling on one bus, right?
Mm-mm.
There's multiple connections. And it's now, if you're driving cross country, there's going to be a whole lot of different modes of transportations. So why is it important for us to check and double check whether or not reservations are necessary?
Well, I'm going to start back with your presupposition there that I have traveled a lot. That part is true. And I didn't always plan ahead.
Oh,
Depending upon the type of trip I've taken, I didn't always plan ahead because I like to be spontaneous and in the moment and, you know, do things as they present themselves.
sure.
The thing is it depends upon what type of trip you're taking, whether you can do that. And that is not to say there weren't times that I missed out on doing things because I didn't plan ahead and didn't
Right.
check to see, just like you're saying now, are there reservations necessary? Do I need to book ahead? You know, what are the limitations going to be? And I would say that more and more, if you're traveling, especially internationally or to a popular location, exactly that is needed. Reservations are needed. You can't just show up and expect to be able to get in, get on, or go through. You know,
Right.
that doesn't always work out. So planning ahead and checking to see if you need to book a ticket in advance. I'll give you an example. So I just was in Florida, and no, I didn't get to enjoy the sunshine because guess what? I was there during the cold snap.
Of
So
course.
no suntan on my skin. But one of the things that I had to deal with was getting from the airport to my hotel. So,
Mm,
you know, you might think hotel, they'll have a shuttle. You'll
of
just be able
course.
to show up and get on the hotel shuttle. Nope. COVID has changed a lot of that for a lot of hotels. A lot of them don't have a shuttle anymore.
Right.
So you might think, okay, well, I'll just grab an Uber or a Lyft. Well, a lot of airports are discovering, or a lot of people are discovering at airports, there isn't always an Uber or a Lyft available in a reasonable time frame.
Right.
So, you know, or at a reasonable cost. So maybe that's not an option. So I looked a little bit further and I found that there was a shuttle, but to be able to use that shuttle, I had to book it in advance.
Hmm.
So,
Well, and those are things that you found out, right? You know, when you did some, either you could either find out through research and looking ahead, or you can find out the hard way. and
right,
and
exactly.
you know, and sometimes, you know, the hard way is not something that I would, and I want to preference the fact that doing it the hard way versus being spontaneous are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you end up making some mistakes and your trip ends up being kind of rough, you know, that will definitely get you to understand the importance of looking at, you know, right, you know, the future way of how you're going to travel, what you're going to be doing next time you decide to travel.
Right.
But Kathy, you know, we look at things, especially when we're just looking at our inner city, you know, bus routes and so forth, or you know, it's we have a point A and a point B, and it's really not much to get to there. You get it on the bus, you go past about 7 stops, and you're where you need to be.
Right.
So when you're planning something out of our area, which I want to remind people, you can start with us when you're trying to plan a trip out of area to either just go to Portland and hang out in Portland for a little while and come back, or if you want to go from Portland and at Union Station and hop on the train that takes you maybe over to, let's just say Arizona, let's just say Texas. You know, that's where I'm from. I'd love to
New
hop on
York.
Yes, New York, all the way to New York. So we have a start and we have an end, right? We know where starting and where we want to end, but there is so much in between, whether or not you're taking, and we're leaving planes out of it right now.
Mhm.
Okay. You're just leaving planes, but you're going to hop on a train or you're going to hop on a bus. Either one of those two modes of transportations, they have very delicate schedules that they use, and it can be just like a huge list. Oh, I put my hands in front of the screen, like as if the screen was, but they have this huge list of stops. And Kathy, that could be part of the enjoyment of doing this cross country trip, right?
Sure, absolutely. But if you don't know, you're heading to Florida and you think you're going through the South and it's going to be warm, but the route that you booked on, like you mentioned, it actually goes to the north to go to there. You need to plan ahead because
Yes.
you need to have the right wear to keep you warm, and the right gear, and maybe you have a layover someplace that
Right.
because you don't immediately get on the next train. Well, then you need to plan ahead and book a hotel. And,
Yeah.
there's all of these different things. You got to do the math so that you're not stressed out
That's right.
during your trip, because that's important. Part of the trip, I'm hoping, for me, at least when I'm traveling, part of it is being able to relax and really settle into that trip. And I'm not going to
Yes.
enjoy it if I'm worried about what I'm doing when the ride stops.
So Kathy, why do we even take the time to talk about going out of area or going out of state via the bus, train, or public transportation? Why do we talk about it? I mean, I'm sitting here, thinking to myself, why is this important to people? Well, through my research, I realized that there are some bus companies that go cross country that are packed. They're got quite a few individuals, a lot of people riding on the trains. Now, they're not as packed as the buses are, but they're pretty busy from
But
time
what
to
a
time
great
as
way
well
to
too.
travel. I mean, seriously, there's so many people that miss out on a train ride. You get to
Yeah.
see so many beautiful places if you do a longer train ride. I'm a
Yeah.
big train advocate. I love the
Yes,
train.
I know, and hopefully, that's something that would be in my or our near future, I hope, at some point. But what I'm talking a little more about, though, isn't it actually more cost effective to, in some cases, take a
Environmentally and
bus?
cost effective, it,
Yeah,
it certainly
environmental.
can be. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And riding on a plane is not an option for everybody. And a
right. It just
bus
isn't.
is a viable option. Always a fun way to get around.
It is, and when I was, kind of doing some research for this, I just found out, I'm like, the places that we get to stop and looking at all the available stops. I mean, for crying out loud, who doesn't want to go to Tombstone, Arizona, right? I mean, as long as I get a chance to go through Area 51. Unfortunately, there is not a bus that travels through Area 51, at least not the one that I would be taking.
And
And
I don't know if I'd want to do that like in August.
it'd be kind of hot, wouldn't it?
I might choose a different month to travel through there, but okay. Sounds
Yeah.
like fun.
Well, it does, right? And when I get into my home state of Texas, there's plenty of places buses stop, and it gives you a good opportunity, to get out and enjoy. There's one stop where you get, I think it's 2 hours,
Mhm.
to go out and grab yourself some dinner or whatever, and be able to see just a little bit of the surrounding area. So it's nice to get to stretch your legs and so forth. A lot of people need to understand too is that when you're typically riding bus across the country, and even in a train, your space isn't as voluminous as some may like, but it doesn't matter.
Well, but
'Cause-
I would say, that's one of those things that's changed a lot over the years.
Mhm.
And airplane spaces have gotten a lot smaller,
Yes.
and bus and train spaces not so much. So you may find yourself with more leg room on a bus trip than you would on a plane trip. And so
That's a good
I don't
point,
know,
Kathy.
there's all kinds of ways to travel. And I really think that our main message is lots of people come here to visit, but also
Yeah,
the people that live here like to travel to go other places too.
very good point.
Because
Yes.
we live in a tourist area, we meet people from all over the place, and it piques our interest in other places. And all of that is possible.
Mhm.
Traveling is possible even if you don't have a car, or if you choose to not use your car, is a very good option these days.
Absolutely. You know, I was again researching and wanted to find out, can I take my bicycle on any of these trips? And I thought, because there's some pretty cool bike trails across this country that you can research. I thought, you know what? Yeah, you can. And I thought, gosh, that's what I want to do. I want to go cross country on either a Greyhound bus or an Amtrak train and throw my bike in their storage compartment. And when I get to where I need to go, uh, get to my destination, take my bike out and just go enjoy. That's a possibility, Kathy. Maybe I can ride my
Absolutely.
bicycle in New York. Ooh,
Yeah,
wouldn't that be a
sure.
trip?
I
Might
don't
take
know
me
if
4
I'd
days
want
to
to
get
do
there.
that, but you go for it.
Hey,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
I
Hey,
feel like I would be a hood ornament too soon if I did that, but
possibly. You
each
never
their
know.
own. I'll walk, you can use your bike, or that's the thing, is that you don't necessarily have to take your bike with you. Lots of places have bikes or e-scooters or those kinds of
That's
things
a
that you
great point.
can
Yeah,
use when you get there. So, that's another thing you can learn when you're doing your research, is what sort of options do you have when you get to your destination. And I think that's part of the fun part, and
it
especially the
is.
bigger cities, there's definitely transportation options available there. And so I think we're going to be doing another show on this where we get to do some details, and we can
Yeah,
actually do like a journey map of what it looks like to get from here to Portland, or here to
sure.
Boston, or here to who knows where, and use some pictures so that we can show you what it looks like. So if you were to undertake that journey, you'd recognize it because you've seen it already.
And here we are, we're talking about this, and I'm sure somebody maybe butted in halfway through the show or whatever. Like, what? Why are they talking about? I mean, this is SETD, Sunset Empire Transportation District, Clatsop County. Why are they talking about going all the way to New York, Florida? Well, because you can. That's just the simple way for me. That's reason why I'm enjoying doing the show so much, is because you can do this. You
Mhm.
can do those things. I mean, just with a little bit of your going back over here really quick before the show ends, is really, planning for your trip, researching, overcoming the fear of what it might, not only just cost you, but I mean, cost you as far as your stress level. You don't want to add any stress, and, really just doing the math. I love it the way you brought that up. Really, do the schedules work for me enough? Am I putting myself in the right amount of time, space, or you actually, I think you've mentioned padding to make sure that you're not adding stress. Because listen, when you're taking these long trips and stuff, you don't want to add stress. There's already just enough of that little background stress there just to make sure you get from where you need to go, which is completely manageable and fine. But you just definitely don't want to add more stress due to poor
Right.
planning.
Well, I mean, and
And
I
yeah,
want to, I'm going to jump in here because I think that for so many people these days, when you're going on vacation, you don't get to count the plane trip as part of your vacation because it's so stressful. And for
yes, right.
me, the option of using a bus or a train means that that whole travel time is part of your vacation if you do it right.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, that's a great
So,
point. And last thing here, Kathy, before we end the show, Eric mentioned one thing as well too, and you actually have talked about it quite a bit. Is really understanding that there's help, right?
mhm.
Anywhere you go, it doesn't matter, even up to and including that bus driver. You may be on that cross country trip in the middle of nowhere, but there's a bus driver there when you're on that vehicle and you're traveling to your destination. And if you have a question, ask that bus driver, right?
Absolutely. Or the neighbor, the person sitting across the aisle from
Sure.
you,
Hmm.
and using transportation options isn't just for people that are physically able to walk around.
Right.
It's for everybody. It's
Everybody.
for
Yep.
everybody. And whether you can read and you can see, or you have hearing challenges, it's for everybody. There is
Yep.
the type of help you need is available.
Well, I think that gives us a really good end to this show, Kathy. Is yes, you can get to where you need to go, even if it's across the country. Just
I
ask
want
for
to do
help if you need
more.
it.
Let's do some
Yes,
more about how to travel.
we can definitely do some
Because
more.
really, I think that that's the exciting part about teaching people how to move around without a car, is to
Yep.
show them how far can you get and not use a car.
Boy, that sounds like a little future challenge there, Kathy. I like that.
Me too.
Hey,
All
after
right,
last
folks.
week's show on e-bikes, now we're on to cross country trips. I can kind of see where this is going.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I think that sunshine out there, the fact that the weather is turning a little bit nicer, don't bank on it yet, because
Yes.
we haven't had our normal snapback for the winter
right.
weather. But let's enjoy the sunshine while we have it. Let's get out there, breathe some of that fresh air, get some of those winter cobwebs out, and enjoy your weekend. Jason, this has been a super fun show. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Kathy, you have a great